Hi everybody, a very warm welcome to my channel, Nellie the Narcissist. Thanks so much for joining today, and welcome to Resident Evil Episode 1, which is a brand new series that I'm creating, which is a survivor-led series that covers the spiritual dimension of narcissistic abuse and the darker spiritual aspects that hardly get any coverage. And if you are brand new, I want you to know that I'm not a narcissist, but I'm a survivor myself of a malignant narcissist. And I have come to the conclusion that there is a demonic influence that is lurking behind the mask of one of these particular psychopathic narcissists, for sure. And if you would like to hear my personal stories, then I have a whole playlist on here, which I'll link down below in the description box, where you can go and you can click and you can find out all about me and my background. Now, when I exposed my own story and I shared my demonic level encounters with a malignant narcissist, I had so many survivors flock forward to share with me that my story was basically theirs. And I realized that it's so important for me on this channel to give other people a voice for things that they have not been able to speak about or even articulate in life. Number one, not only do we know that people, I call them civilians, don't understand what it's like to be involved with a narcissist, particularly a psychopathic narcissist. They've got no idea what narcissistic abuse is all about. Number two, hardly anybody gives any idea or recognition to a spiritual dimension of life. So if you go on to say to anybody that actually you were involved with somebody on a demonic level that you believe is influenced or possessed, they're going to look at you with their mouth wide open and they're going to think that you are absolutely insane. And when we've come out of the relationships, hopefully we've survived the ordeals with those individuals, we feel like we can't even speak about what we went through and nobody understands us. We feel isolated and alone. And this is also giving those people a platform so we can bring everybody together and we can bring all of the stories and share the stories to help each other, to validate what we went through, and hopefully for the ones that are out there thinking and feeling so alone in life, knowing that you aren't. And I also really feel that these stories need to be told, and it will also help others to realize how large a scale these strange and unexplainable demonic levels, supernatural encounters are with these kinds of narcissists. And, you know, as we gather the stories here, because I'm going to be making quite a few of these, I hope, I think that we're going to notice how key things will keep on repeating over and over again. And this will be very useful to analyze, because although we're all in different locations, we were all with different people, the experiences are really not so different. And this is why I believe it's the same evil. And for me, there is only one origin to that. So I really hope that making this podcast series is going to be truly very helpful and useful for many of you. And if you resonate, obviously, with today's video, then please do drop me a comment below, like the video, share it with anybody that you think it might help. And if you're not subscribed, then please do consider also subscribing. So I believe that for anybody that has encountered the type of evil that is found and housed within the body and being of the narcissistic psychopath, we've all touched exactly the same truth and origin. Like I said, it's demonic and it's satanic. And for many people that never believed in that before, and I was one of them, I now know with conviction, absolute conviction, that the devil isn't just a fictional character that sits in a book. We don't have to connect it to religion if we don't want to. Although the Bible has got multiple references to the presence of what we encountered, you know, and tells us about it and what to expect. But even before Christianity, many world traditions had their own wisdom and their own kind of understanding of the dynamics inherent in life and the real forces of good and evil that have always been there since day one. But the skeptics and non-believers will say, well, they were primitive, what did they know? And I can say they probably knew way more than what we do about life now. And we think that we're really smart and we're highly advanced with all of our technology. But when it comes to life and truth, I think that we're going backwards. And this is because we've lost touch with wisdom, we've lost touch with nature, and we've lost touch with ourselves. And also the non-believers in this case, they attack religion and would say that evil doesn't exist, demons don't exist, angels don't exist, God doesn't exist, Satan's not real. It's all just fictional stories that people have been indoctrinated into believing. Well, I wasn't indoctrinated into any beliefs. In fact, I'd be more inclined to say that I was raised to not believe. And it wasn't actually until I got to adulthood that I got an up-close and personal experience where I had my eyes widely opened. And it's nice if you haven't experienced evil in your own life. You can ignore it and hope that it never comes knocking at your door. But those of us that have experienced Resident Evil, this is evil inside our own homes that we lived with, for many of us, we now know a very different truth. We came out of sleeping to be rudely awoken to the darker spiritual level of life. Believing in the demonic is not something that people do out of choice. This isn't also an entertainment series. This is actually real life survivor stories of malignant narcissists. Those people basically that got close enough to pierce the veil and see what's really lurking behind the mask and human facade of such an individual. So in this first episode, I've got a story from a survivor that I'm going to read for you. And in all of these survivor accounts, I'm not going to share locations or names. Everything's anonymous because the names and locations are not important. The experiences, however, are very important. And I hope in sharing these survivor accounts, we can form more of a picture and connect the dots so that we can study our own experiences, understand them better, and also map the workings of evil. As we're going to see, we know they're all under the same playbook. So I'm going to read this survivor's account in just a moment to you and what she wanted to share, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts and conclusion on all of this. Some of you won't believe me, and that's okay. I'm sharing my experience to help bring awareness and validate those who have shared a similar experience, not to make non-believers believe me. I was with my partner for 8 years. It wasn't until I fell pregnant with his child did I meet a totally different person. 6 years into the relationship, the mask disappeared before my very eyes. The nice guy, romantic, gentle, loving and loyal, someone who would listen intently to me talking for hours, who apparently shared the same interests as me, the same morals and life goals, ran me baths, picked me flowers, wrote me poems, and sang me songs. That person suddenly disappeared the moment that I fell pregnant with his child. Looking back, it was like he had formed a web, spinning his lies until he believed I was trapped. His eyes turned jet black and he tried to unalive me. One day he went into a violent rage and I fell to the floor where he repeatedly kicked me whilst I was down and pregnant. Whilst I was rolled up in a ball on the kitchen floor trying to protect my stomach, with every blow to my body I was in disbelievement and shock at what was happening. And who was this person? He shouted, "I'm going to unalive that baby, and if I fail, I'll make sure somebody else does it." I ran out of my house at 6 a.m. into the road to flag somebody down. A Polish lady on her way to work stopped. I only had on a jumper and pants, and I was completely battered. She let me use her phone to call the police and waited with me up the road until they arrived. Within days, though, we were back together, and he was telling me how he had nothing and nobody to live for, and how he'd waited his whole life for me. I wanted the old him back, but where did he go? He never existed. From there it only got worse. More violent outbursts, was constantly accusing me of talking to other men and looking at other men, stealing money from my purse and bank accounts. He even began to torture me through keeping me awake at night, kicking me and pushing me every time I fell asleep, starting arguments out of nowhere over nothing to keep me awake. It was torture. But things became more bizarre. We'd be out in the car driving and he'd randomly ask me to pull over, and there on the side of the road would be brand new things mysteriously placed there. Coats, clothes, shoes, home furnishings, and once a big ornate black shiny mirror. These aren't things that you'd usually find in random places on the street, and it struck me as very, very odd. Then one strange day, I awoke to find my feet immersed in a bowl of water. I had a wet cloth placed on my head and I was sat up on a chair facing the big black mirror. How did I get there? And what did he do? I was totally baffled. I was in absolute disbelief to what I was experiencing. This was demonic forces. And he told me outright, I was assigned to you. I didn't really truly understand what he meant, but now I do. At one point, he tried to actually convince me to unalive my own mother, telling me it's for the best and that he can get me a gun. He also started to tell me how he had unalived lots of people he'd been assigned to, describing to me how, when, and where. At this point, I was living with a complete monster, expecting his child. And I was living in a sense of false hope that things would get better somehow and they go back to how they once were at the start. I now realize, after years of no contact, that I wasn't weak or stupid or easy prey. I was strength and love and light, the very reason that he got together with me in the first place. And I asked myself, will this ever change? 17 police call-outs. I managed to break free. Now me and our child have moved into a beautiful home in the countryside where he can't find us. No contact was our freedom and it was really hard. But what was the alternative? Since this experience, I can feel and sense the same dark energy in some of the people around me. It's made me aware of the evil out there that does exist, but it really hasn't stopped me living and shining my light. To anyone who is currently experiencing any of these things, please be honest with yourself as you answer this question. Is this really going to change? To those of you who have survived these experiences, well done. You were never weak or easy prey. They chose you because of the light that you possess. And to the darkness out there still lurking, thank you. Thank you for helping me see the real me and the light in your darkness. So thank you to the survivor that just shared her account for us. There are a few things that stand out to me in this story. And number one, sometimes it's scary, but the narcissist mask can stay on for a very, very long time. And it's really worrying. And it goes to show how some of these wicked individuals are very much in control and also very planned. This person had a game plan. It wasn't that he suddenly became a different character overnight. He just was restraining himself from exposing who he was before he got her locked into carrying his child. That was his agenda. What is quite rare in this case is that the moment he got that survivor pregnant, which was his aim, he started getting incredibly violent with her and attempting to finish the life of their unborn child. This is strange because many times narcissists are actually quite happy to have children. One, because they hope to continue their line and pollute the earth, hopefully with the possibility of more evil organic portals. And two, having children with targets is one way of soul entrapment. You're mine for life kind of thing. And we also know that they love using your children with them to torment you for as long as they can, and they hope this will be for life. They enjoy people in pain and misery and suffering deeply. And by having kids with them, they can really dig the blade in deep and twist it. So it is strange that he wanted to unalive their child, and I wonder why. The only idea that I can kind of imagine is that he became threatened and jealous that the baby would take his supply and power away. Or he may have just wanted to inflict the suffering of the loss of the child onto the survivor. But as she said, she was intensely locked into the trauma bond. And many of us feel it's really not just a trauma bond, but it's a demonic force that's very powerful. And this energy has a strong hold over us. People in psychology, they liken it to parasites. And some parasites can infect a host and take control of the brain and nervous system and cause the host to walk straight into their doom and meet their untimely end. And I agree with this wholeheartedly, but I believe it's more of a spiritual parasite. And what that is in fact evil entities and demonic influence affecting us in close proximity. And I remember feeling like I had no power to leave, even though I knew it was dangerous. And I wrote for myself on a piece of paper a cry for help one day, and I wrote down the words, "Please save me from myself, because I'll be damned if I can move and I feel so paralysed and crippled." Strange, very, very strange. And in both of our stories, and why the survivor wanted to reach out to me, was the mutual connection of the mirror in both of our encounters. And I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to that have lived with malignant narcissists that have become aware that these individuals have strange occult knowledge coming from somewhere. Now, I don't think that any of these narcissists have actually studied it in their lifetimes. They have an inbuilt knowledge somehow of the dark arts, of the occult. And, it's usually things that they do and practice in absolute secrecy. And I saw this for myself, and towards the end, it just got creepier and creepier until I knew what I was dealing with. So some of them do tune into our energies, are influencing us deliberately and consciously, and like the spider that caught us in the center of the web and tied us up in the sticky, gooey gunk, the strong cords don't want to let us get away, and yet they will and do have intentions to finish us. And I have so many horror film ideas for Hollywood based on real life, and yet they'd be so much better than anything that they could think up or create, because truth is so much scarier and stranger than fiction. So we can't be too hard on ourselves for staying for as long as we did. There is a strong hold, and that grip is invisible, is going on behind the scenes. And it's not just a trauma bond, in my opinion. This is demonic level. And the narcissist is fully aware of the chains because they've actively and they've consciously put those chains on you. So I know this sounds like a scene from a film already. Can you imagine you're driving in the car one day with your partner and they pull over at the side of the road. They don't tell you why, but suddenly there are these strange items that are just there. And one of them is a large black mirror. I mean, wouldn't you freak out? And then you wake up disorientated, sat in front of a mirror, right, with your feet in water and a wet towel on your head. So what on earth was that? Your guess really is as good as mine, but all I can say is that this wasn't designed to be an act of kindness. The fact that she was disorientated suggests that she must have been roofied or put unconscious somehow. And I know that mirrors are portals, and they've been used to communicate with spirits and used in scrying, with witchcraft. It's something that's been used for a very long time. And I suppose that however insane and David Lynch this sounds, a ritual had taken place in which she was not aware or consenting. The fact that he wanted her unconscious and in front of this mirror, I imagine that he was communicating with entities through the mirror and was using it as a portal to try to access her by. And by making her unconscious, he thought that he could sneakily get these entities, into her or accessing her spiritually and gaining control. And this is what I dislike the most spiritually about these individuals. They roofie us because they want us sleeping as they're going about their dark crafts. They don't want us knowing what they're doing to our energy. They don't want us to know how they're using us and what they want from us. It's all done sneakily and underhandedly. It's a spiritual violation, it really is. And it makes me so sick because this is disgustingly wrong. That is demonic work. It goes against God and the divine spirit because nobody is meant or allowed to violate and trespass on the spiritual level. It is trespassing on your God-given divine essence. It's a big no-no. But narcissists, they don't care because they're against God. They don't want anything good for beings of light or love. They want us all destroyed. This is truth. So they honestly think that they can claim possession of your power, your energy, your soul, and your life. They think it's no longer God's, it's no longer the divine's. They try to seal it away. And when I looked into the eyes in my story of the narcissist through the mirror, I knew that whatever was taking place I wasn't privy to. I was set up to the situation of sitting in front of that mirror, just like this survivor, but I wasn't unconscious. I was taken there under false pretenses, and it quickly turned into a showdown, a spiritual showdown, where the narcissist was trying to take possession of me, was trying to take ownership of my soul, and threatened me without any word spoken. There was no blinking in those minutes, and I remember the face of the narcissist changed. The eyes had a look I had never seen before, and I understood that this was a demonic presence. And even though I wasn't conscious about what was happening, something within me did know, and I told the narcissist telepathically that they weren't going to have my soul and life. Why I said this, I have no idea, but I knew it, and silently I communicated that with the narcissist. And I must have won because the narcissist backed down and left. And that's the moment that I knew that these relationships are spiritual battles between the forces of good and evil, light and dark. So I hope that this survivor story has been useful or helpful to you. Let me know by leaving me a comment below. And I'm going to be making a lot more of these episodes. So if you have a story that you would like to tell, if you would like to write to me, then I'm leaving my email in the description box where you can write to me. And for now, thank you so much for watching. Take care, sending love, and I will see you all again next week.